How's it going out there, video folks? My video folks, video peeps of the YFYI podcast. All you guys checking out the video version. Thanks for checking out the video version first and foremost. Really appreciate you guys helping the video content grow and sharing it on the YouTube. My commitment this second half of the year is to double. I'd actually even say it's gonna be more than double. We're talking quadruple the amount of content that's getting produced in a YouTube world. So that's something I kind of, my YouTube channel, it exists, but it's kind of slacking a little bit. So I decided to start recording the podcast. And through recording the podcast, putting the podcast video out on YouTube, kind of testing that out, seeing how it goes, also sharing it on Facebook as well, and just seeing what you guys think. So I always do a couple of minutes before I start recording the audio version of the podcast, so you guys get some behind the scenes footage while I'm setting up everything and getting ready to go. Testing the audio, seeing how the audio sounds, making sure I got the buttery vocals. So you guys are getting to see that. And what else has been going on with you guys? That's what I'd like to know. And where are you consuming this? Are you consuming it on Facebook or on YouTube? A lot of the pre-roll stuff, the stuff that I'm shooting here, is not being recorded, so there's exclusive stuff that you guys are seeing or hearing, exclusive just on these videos. But I'm curious to know where you're consuming the video. If you're consuming it on Facebook, I'd like to know. If you're consuming it on YouTube, I'd like to know. And the other thing that I'm curious about is, are you consuming it in both audio and video? That's the other thing that I'm curious to know. If you're consuming it in audio, you're consuming it in video, you consuming it on YouTube, or you consuming it on Facebook? That is what I'm gonna call the question of the day. How are you consuming the YFYI podcast? Are you consuming it on Facebook? Are you consuming it on YouTube? Are you consuming it both? Are you consuming it also in audio? So how are you consuming the YFYI podcast? That is the question of the day. Love to know your response to that. Hit me up and let me know. So we're gonna get started with the video. Gonna get cranking here in just a second, and let's see. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, what's going on, guys? How are you guys doing out there? You're now listening to the YFYI podcast. I am your host, Sunny D. Thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for coming back. If you're a return listener, if you're not a return listener, you're a regular. You be listening to the podcast like every day, every single episode. Welcome back. Thanks for being back. What episode is this gonna be? Well, let's take a look. Let's pull up our... Wow. So this is gonna be episode number 128. Episode number 128. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? 120 episodes in the books. That's a lot of episodes. That is a lot of episodes. That's a lot of me sitting behind this microphone and recording these hopefully buttery vocals into the buttery speaker, into the buttery, whoops, watch out. You guys heard that? That was a puppy alert. Watch out, puppy under the desk alert. Go over there and lay down. Lay down. So recording these buttery vocals. It's behind the scenes, having a puppy on set. Not recommended if you're recording the podcast. But yeah, recording these buttery vocals into the sound of your ears. So thanks for being here. Thanks for coming back. 128 episodes. Trying to get a little behind the scenes footage here. And for all of you guys that are listening to the YFYI podcast, thanks for being here. For all of you guys that are watching the YFYI podcast, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. So recently, I've started recording the podcast in both video format and also in audio format. So you can catch it any which way you want. If you want to catch it on the video, you can catch it on the video, on YouTube, on Facebook if you want to catch it. On the audio, on the YFYI podcast, in the podcast app on Apple or any other place you listen. I think you could probably find it. I don't know if we're on Spotify yet. I'm not sure about that. There are some episodes on SoundCloud. There's an app called Overcast. Obviously, if you have a Droid, you've got the Google Play Store. And if you have Apple, you have the podcast app. So there's plenty of places you can catch the YFYI podcast, or you can listen to it. So I'm excited to get into another episode. Thanks for all the feedback. Thanks for all of your comments. Thanks for your love as you guys are sharing the content and people discovering the podcast from all different corners of the country. People hit me up from these cities that I've never been before, never heard of before, saying, hey, listen to your podcast. Thanks a lot. So I appreciate that. And all of the book love, everybody that's been reading the book, whether it be the OG book, YFYI, the original version, which I have somewhere around this office. Let me find it real quick. Boom. So if you're listening or reading the original version, or you got the latest, or you've got both, whatever you've got, thanks for the feedback. Version 1 and version 2. Version 1 being really for the stylist that's just kind of getting going, just getting their career started. Thanks for listening. Thanks for reading. Or if you're working on the next chapter, maybe you've already got it started, and now you're like, you know what? I already got it started. I already got, my career going. Now I'm working on chapter number 2. Now I'm working on the next version. Now I'm working on building the next segment of my career. Whatever you're working on, I'm here to support you. That's why I do this podcast, so I can just share with you insights, keep you motivated, keep your head in the game, keep you focused on the target, keep you moving in the right direction towards the goal. Sharing with you insights, sharing with you things that I'm learning as I'm navigating, because I'm just like you guys. I'm learning every single day. I'm figuring things out every single day. I'm discovering things every single day. So just like you guys, I am constantly trying to evolve and grow as a stylist, as a professional, as a business owner. So I'm going through the same journey. We might be at different points in our journey, but I'm going through the same journey. And that's why I do the podcast. So thank you guys for your support, and I'm going to continue to come through and deliver on my end. So what I wanted to talk to you guys about today on today's episode is a little subject called relevance. I've spoke about relevance. I've been talking a lot lately with my team and just in general, if you're following me on the social media, about confidence. But I want to talk to you a little bit about relevance today. And when you're looking at your position or your role within the company, so you work for XYZ company and you're showing up, you're showing up every single day, and you're showing up and you're there, you're like, you know what, I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna do this thing, I'm gonna add value to the company, I'm gonna get after it, whatever it is, whatever getting after it looks like to you. So you show up every single day. Now, do you know if you're actually hitting that target? When is the last time, whether it was scheduled, whether it was just impromptu, when is the last time that you got feedback? Like, am I relevant here? If you were to call in, would the place be in a position of hurt? Like, would the business suffer if you were to call in sick, your pinky toe hurts, whatever it is, you got a migraine, you got diarrhea, whatever your excuse is. If you were to call out, would the business suffer, would the business hurt if you were not there? Do you know what the answer is? Because that's something that you're going to want to know, because that has a lot to do with this term relevance. And I want to give you just a couple of ideas as you're kind of thinking about this, and you're wondering, am I relevant, to this business? And as you're thinking about it, you're wondering, I want to give you a couple of ideas today that you can take, you can put into your toolbox, you can take to the bank and know, like, these are some things that you can do to make sure that you're maintaining relevance. Relevance is defined as the quality or state of being closely connected or appropriate. So number one, the first thing I would say, that if you want to maintain or elevate your relevance in the company that you work in, or that you want to work in, or in any area, if you want to increase it, maintain, build it, thinking about relevance. So the quality or state of being closely connected or appropriate. So the first thing is going to be connection. What does your connection look like to the other players on your team? What does your connection look like? How well do you know? What do you know about the other players on your team? How connected are you? So number one, increase your connection. Increase your connection. When's the last time you took your boss or your team leader or whoever, for a coffee or out for a beer or whatever it is? Go have a cocktail with them. When's the last time you took them out? Not when's the last time they took you out. When's the last time you took them out? What could happen, right? You go outside the work environment, go grab a coffee or something. It doesn't have to be, a dinner, but it could be. But what happens is you can build connection. And that connection, so you guys are working on in that theater, you're working on in that little, encounter, you're working on connection, you're working on communication, you're working on understanding. So when is the last time you've done that? So that's going to be a big one. Get better connected. So another thing, relevance. So when you show up, relevance. How focused are you on the task at hand and completing it to the best of your abilities, to the best of your capabilities? How focused are you on the task at hand and completing it to the best of your abilities? So in that second, increasing your relevance, becoming more relevant to the workplace, complete every task 100% to your ability, right? Do you leave things half done? Are you leaving things undone? Are you going into the job and are you just there right? To pass time. That's called hanging out. There's a lot of hanging out going on. In a workplace, there's a lot of hanging out going on. And a lot of it, is because people aren't connected. Maybe they don't have a purpose. Maybe they haven't defined their purpose yet. They don't have goals that are clearly defined. Things that I talk a lot about. There's a whole chapter on goal setting in my first book. Definitely reread that chapter. But thinking about, like, do you have a purpose? Do you have a goal? Do you have a target? Because if not, then you might be in that state of, like, I'm just hanging out. And if you're just hanging out at the workplace waiting for time to go by, and somebody's paying you to do that, shame on them. Number two, if you're taking the money for doing that, shame on you. Because now you're not feeding yourself. You're not really, and I'm not talking about in terms of actual feeding yourself. Like, yeah, you're getting money for doing nothing. That doesn't encourage self-confidence. That doesn't help build your self-esteem. That doesn't help, improve your value, your self-value, or your self-worth. If you're there and you're collecting the pay, but you're not doing the job. So those are a couple things to think about. Being better connected. Number one, you want to be more relevant. Get better connection to your fellow men and women, to your teammates in the workplace. So find a better connection. Get to know them. Get to know what makes them tick. Right? What can you do to find out what makes them tick? Go out for a coffee. Take them out for a drink after work. Hey, find a way to get that connection. That's going to be critical. And the second one is going to be making sure that you're doing whatever the task is. Now, no matter how big, no matter how small. Some of the tasks, they might seem like they're not that important. Doesn't matter. You might think that they're not that important. Doesn't matter. Whatever the task is, no matter how big or how small, make sure you're doing that task to the best of your ability, 100%, no shortchanging. Because at the end of the day, you can half-ass, you can do it half-ass, but at the end of the day, ultimately, yeah, you're shortchanging the company, you're shortchanging your teammates, but you're also shortchanging yourself, and you're sending a message to yourself that you're going to half-ass. And how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you're going to do a task, do it to the best of your ability. And so those are going to be a couple of the things. So that's what I want you to be asking yourself. You want to become relevant, because here's what happens. If you find out, that if you don't even show up and no one is curious as to why, as to where, as to what happened, then that's a sign that you might be irrelevant. Or have you ever had someone in the workplace where when they're not there, things actually work better, things run smoother? Now, if you find out, if you're the one, when you're not there, you're the one that's without you, that is the cause of those things running smoother, then that means your relevancy is gone. It's out the window. And you need to work on restoring that ASAP. And I always think about, like, in business, in business transactions, when I'm working with another company, another person, come to the table with more value than you're looking to take from the table. Being able to provide ultimately more value than you're looking to extract. And that's how you can set yourself up as in a winning position, as somebody that becomes super relevant, where people want you to be there when they're making, especially like major decisions, major moves. They want your input. They want your guidance. They want even just your physical presence. For some people to make that decision, having your physical presence there makes them feel better. Because in that moment, they know, like, they have a heightened sense of confidence. Because in that moment, they get it. They're like, yep, everything's good. I got, Karen's here, whoever Sonny's here, everything's good. because their confidence goes up because of your presence. And that's a big part of you being relevant. So think about it. The quality or state of being closely connected or appropriate, where your input matters, your presence matters, the way that you perform matters. And if you think about sports teams, championship sports teams, when their key role players are not in the game, it matters because they're relevant. The outcome, the result of a win or a loss means that that person, and they're betting on that person. That's relevance right there. So I want you to think about your relevance when it comes down to it. Are you relevant or are you irrelevant in the workplace? And those are a couple of ways that you can turn it around. But what you got to do is you got to be ready for some honest feedback. You got to be ready for, you have to solicit it. So you need to go to your team leader. You need to go to your boss. You need to go to your manager. And you need to ask them, hey, I need to get some feedback. Am I performing, to the standard here? Am I relevant here? If I were not here, would this place fall apart? There's some people that think that. I had some people in my company that thought, and they were relevant, but then they became irrelevant because they started focusing on stupid shit. They started focusing on things that weren't really moving the needle. They started making every little thing a huge thing, like a little, thing all of a sudden, right? It's like a little cut on the finger turned into like, we might have to amputate the arm, They over magnified the small things. And what happened was, in their head, in their mind, they thought they were relevant and they actually weren't. They're like, well, if I wasn't here, this place would fall apart. Now, if that's your goal, to not be, to see the place fall apart, then, and then you leave and then you're like, all right, and it doesn't fall apart, guess what? You weren't really that relevant. Because with relevance, it's like the people that are there, they're going to feel it. They're going to feel like, man, and they want to feel it in a positive way. Your presence affects them in a positive way. So as you're going about your business, you're out there, and I know just like you, myself, if you're listening to this podcast, you're trying to grow. You don't listen to this podcast if you're not trying to grow. And if these words are falling on you right now and you're wondering, man, am I relevant in my workplace? Then your next steps are to go and get with your superior, get with your boss, get with your team leader, get with whoever it is you need to get with, and get with them one-on-one and get a performance review. Now, if you're in a company, like in our company, every 90 days we do sit-downs, formal reviews, but I've got an open door policy. We can do reviews at any point in time. So if you're in a company like that, then you need to go ahead and solicit that feedback. Do it now. If you're waiting for your review, stop waiting. Stop putting it off. Stop procrastinating. Do it now. Talk to that person. Now, if there is no process, if there's nothing set up for you to actually have a formal review, who says you can't ask anyway? You don't have to wait. Who says you can't ask? Who says you can't ask one? I want to get some feedback. How am I doing? How am I doing? What could I improve on? My goal, this is what you're saying to your team leader, my goal is to maintain my relevance, or my goal is to become more relevant, or my goal is to increase my relevance. What do I need to do in order to achieve that goal? That's how you keep your work exciting. That's how you keep your job exciting. That's how you keep your passion going. That's how you fuel your fire. You ever feel like, you lost it a little bit, you lost your spark? It's probably because you lost some of the relevance. Why you're there, what are you doing? And people aren't giving you the feedback, whether it be verbal feedback or it be like physical feedback when they're excited to see you and you walk in the door. All of those can be signals. So I want you to come back to this podcast if you need to. Think about some of those things, getting a better connection, doing everything as you're doing it 100%, soliciting feedback on a regular basis. Those few things right there are going to help you increase your relevance score, maintain your relevance score, so you become an asset and you stay an asset in the company and on the team that you're on. So you don't end up finding yourself in the off season, go into another team, no job because your relevance went away. And it's the same thing in every business and every team. What do you do to maintain it? I mean, you take a look at the social media landscape. That's a great place because there's so much out there. There's so much social media going on. If you don't post, like I audit my team all the time and I call them out. Hey, when's the last time you posted? Oh, wow. We're in May. We're in the middle of May and the last time you posted was in February. You're irrelevant in the news feed. If you're trying to use that as a tool to get attention, so you can draw attention to your work and to your business, and you haven't posted for 3-4 months, it's easy to become irrelevant there. But it's also, you could become irrelevant in your workplace too. Especially if as the company grows and gets bigger. There's people that hiding in companies. Some people are there and for years, and people I didn't even know you worked here still. In some of these big companies that I've studied, people get lost in the filing cabinets. They get lost in the hallways because they become so irrelevant. So my goal for you is to get to it, get after it, make sure you stay relevant so you can continue to grow and achieve your goals and achieve hitting the objective and the mission that you're on. So I hope you guys will take this and run with it, increase your relevance score. How can we, maybe I'm going to create a relevance scoring card, maybe to introduce to businesses and maybe some of those key questions. But one of the big ones is, if I didn't show up today, does the company feel it? Because if they're like, yeah, actually that was, the day went by better. And I've heard that before. And you've had people leave the company. And if you've ever been at a place when somebody leaves, the atmosphere feels a little bit better. There's not as much tension. When something like that happens, when somebody leaves the company and people actually respond with, oh, it feels a little bit more relaxed around here. It feels a little bit, the mood is lighter around here. That's a signal that, that person's relevance was on its way out, and maybe that they went ahead and left was actually a good thing. So that's something to think about. And make sure you guys are getting feedback. So that's all I got for you guys today on the YFYI podcast. Just want to thank you again for being here, for listening, for tuning in. Make sure you're sharing this with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Make sure you keep the feedback coming, letting me know how I'm doing, what's happening. Comments, likes, shares, all appreciated. And definitely, if you haven't checked out any of the videos, go check those out. A couple episodes ago, I sat down with one of my teammates, did an interview. It's on the YouTube. Sat down with Annie Reyes, also known as Annie P 1.0 on Instagram. You can check out her interview. The audio is coming soon. Audio wasn't quite where I wanted it to be. We had some technical difficulties, so the audio is coming. The audio in the video isn't terrible, but it's definitely, it needs some love. So I've got the other audio I'm gonna share, and we'll see how that goes. I may just share it. It was a really good interview. You can definitely hear it, but it's definitely, we didn't have all of the equipment exactly where we needed it to be. So, but definitely check out that interview. Give her a follow on Instagram. She's doing some amazing things, has amazing work, has an incredible story. I'm going to be sitting down with all of the people on our team one by one. So you're going to see more interviews. So you'll have the video, you'll have the audio version. Check those out. And another place you can find out if you want to stay up on what's going on with me, Rolling with the D podcast. I was doing a podcast with Anchor, the Sunny D Daily Audio Mashup. And then I had the Rolling with the D podcast what I've done is I combine those two. So now it's just a Rolling with the D podcast. It gets created exclusively through Anchor. Then it gets distributed to the iTunes podcast app. It's on the anchor.fm app. If you don't have that, you can discover some really cool podcasts on there. Also, if you have an Amazon device, one of the little Alexa, hey Alexa, hey Alexa, one of the dots or the little other speaker they have, and you go on the app on your phone and you look in their app store, they have the different Alexa skills or what they're called. I have it in there. So if you have that, you can get a little briefing, and that's daily. That's something that I do daily. It's a very short form, 10 minutes or less, and then you'll be able to say, hey Alexa, what's my briefing? And then boom, Rolling with the D will pop up. It may still actually be called the Sunny D Audio Mashup, but we're going to be changing the name, so you can check that out in the podcast store, on the Anchor FM app. So definitely stay tuned for that, and be on the lookout for another YFYI podcast coming at you real soon. And as far as like dates, speaking dates, no more to announce at this second. Working on, I told you guys about some other projects, so stay tuned on the social media for some pretty cool announcements having to do with my main gig, which is running the Salon 1.0, our salon company. So some cool announcements coming from there. But until next time, I will say bye for now. Thanks for listening, guys. And remember, this is the YFYI podcast. This is where you come to learn how to build your business right once, or else you will be doomed to have to build it again. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bam. Just like that. Just like that. All right, so all you people in the video, true. Just finished up the audio. And now for everyone that is watching on the video, you guys are like, all right, did we get some exclusive insight? Yes, you do. If you're watching the video, yes, you do. We're gonna be announcing new locations, the Salon 1.0, coming in Texas, Austin, Texas. That one I can officially start speaking about it. We've got a contract signed, sealed, and we're currently, as we speak, as I'm talking to you on May 15, 2018, under construction. You'll see some pictures come in for that one. Also several more locations to announce. We're expanding our network, part of our mission at the Salon 1.0 in our quest to become a global company. We're going to be opening salons nationwide. So that's the first one that'll be popping off in a few weeks. And we'll have some other locations coming in places like Georgia, places like Texas, places like Florida, places like California, places like where else? Let's see. I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown. Places like, exclusive for the video viewers. Arizona, California. Let's take a look. Arizona. Places like Scottsdale, Arizona. Oh yeah. California. How about that? How about places like Riverside, California? How about places like that? Oh yeah. Nevada. How about places like Nevada? How about places like Las Vegas? Oh yeah. How about places like North Las Vegas? Oh yeah. Where else? Colorado. I'm not going to go through all of them, guys. Illinois, North Carolina, South Carolina, Texas, Virginia. So we've got locations that are going to be popping up everywhere. So we're excited for this next chapter, and I look forward to sharing more with you. Stay tuned for some pictures of what's happening out in Austin, Texas. I can't wait to get out there. Austin, number for one. I mean, it's really, it's, that city is like cool as shit. So I'm excited about that. Be able to spend some more time out there, and to, you know, work on the mission, Salon 1.0. The whole reason, you know, I got into this was to take care of a nationwide situation, which is we needed cells, if you will, where we can then take people that are coming into our beauty industry, the new talent, and help rise them up, raise them up, and help them become successful in all areas of their career. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're all about, providing the best education, and then in turn providing the best experience and education to create happy, well-educated stylists that produce happy, well-educated salon guests consistently throughout the country, throughout the world. So that's what we're doing from day one. So pretty excited to share that with you exclusively here, just for the video viewers. So that's all I got for this episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you share this across the interwebs, and I'll see you guys on the next YFY podcast video. Talk to you soon.